What is good, Tsla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And this one, I want to break down what's going on with the overall market, what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers, what the economic calendar just showed that was very important, what the news is saying about the market and Tesla, what you should be watching for during this pre-market session. But before I break anything down, let me just mention a couple of things. I'm firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 6 free stocks. If you deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 free stocks plus 6 months of level 2 data. If you put in $25,000 or more, you're guaranteed 70 free stocks plus 12 months of level 2 data. This offer ends in just about 11 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's talk about what's going on with Tesla. Tesla's attempting to gap up, trying to push up once again, but we're actually going to be watching this resistance at 242. We also saw SPY and many other tickers try to push up during the pre-market session after initial jobless claims came out. But the question is, will these moves continue to be made? Will the market hold up, or is the market going to continue to see the downside? I'll be breaking that down in this video over the next couple of minutes. But first, let's talk about the data. Initial jobless claims came out as expected at 220,000. This is very close to consensus. Everything else, when it comes to data, was as expected. The 4-week and the 8-week bill auctions were as expected, or I'm sorry, they're going to be coming out, and they should be as expected, in my opinion. We'll be watching this at 11:30 a.m. And at 3 o'clock p.m., we have the consumer credit change coming out. So I'll be watching for that as well. So watch for volatility at 11:30 and then 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The bill auction should be coming out. And like I said, typically they're like super close to what we saw previously. So I think it's going to be just fine. So it shouldn't cause anything too crazy. But the consumer credit change at 3 p.m. should be like the thing that causes a bigger move. And so far, the biggest catalyst of the day is out. We already saw the jobs numbers, so we'll be watching to see what else comes out. All right, so watch for some more volatility later on. When it comes to other things affecting the markets, I just want to mention that there's not a whole lot going on with the news. We're seeing oil slipping a bit more. Wall Street's now getting involved in, a lot of the talks going on when it comes to the Senate Banking Committee, once again negotiating with different regulations. Then we have AbbVie's new deal that came out. They've landed their second big deal in many weeks, and they actually agreed to buy a therapeutics company for $8.7 billion. Besides that, that's pretty much it for the time being. Nothing else is too significant on the news. For Tesla, we're seeing more news about Sweden and not just Sweden, but Norway also getting involved in the unions that are going on. We're seeing some new news about the FSD update, which I'll talk about later on. And then there's Claret Asset Management is basically kind of downgrading Tesla, saying that Tesla is not really one of the top 30 stocks that they are looking at right now. But they mentioned that the long term is still bright for it. So this is something that they said in their little package thus far. But besides that, I want to now break down what's going on with the share price of Tesla. So when it comes to the market, we're actually seeing SPY attempting to push up higher. We're seeing the market trying to push up more and more and more. But the problem I see with this move is although the market is showing some life, we have a big gap that's forming below. Remember, we closed very low yesterday at 454 on SPY. Tesla closed a little down, and now the market's going to gap up. So the question is, although it may push up higher, will the move fail, or are we going to just continue to go? As far as Tesla goes, we could see this thing attempt to go a little higher towards this imbalance at 244, but don't forget, we have a huge gap now that's forming below. It could come back down to fill the gap by tomorrow. And then if it does attempt to bounce like this, we're going to be watching to see if this green trend line of support holds. On Tesla, don't forget that we have this green trend line. The green line is continuing to hold as support. So we're going to be watching to see if that holds if we do end up getting a test later on. But in order for us to be bearish, if you want to be bearish on Tesla, you need to see this basically, kind of retrace towards the green trend line and then eventually break it and make its way back down below 230. There is a risk of that happening as we still technically have a valid head and shoulders like structure, right? We have a left shoulder here, the head and the right shoulder. So we're going to be watching to see if this ends up playing out for Tesla. But for now, it is pushing higher, so watch it try to make its way up to 242, if not 244, and see if it rejects and comes back down to fill its gap. There's going to be a risk of a pop and drop on Tesla, so just be very careful. We will see if it tries to hold the green trend line. As long as we hold this, Tesla could maintain these levels. But if we lose the green trend line of support, Tesla could turn bearish, so just be very careful. On SPY yesterday, I was talking about how if we're bullish on SPY, you want to see it get back above the orange trend line and then close above here. If we're bearish, you want to close below this. SPY is pushing in a very aggressive manner. Going to be looking for it to get close to 457. Could even get to 458, which is awesome. But don't forget, guys, we have a huge gap below that's forming now, and it's very close to us. So I'm thinking that it might pop, it might try to push, but eventually it's going to come back down. It's going to end up filling the gap again. So I don't fully trust this move. We have a huge gap forming. We're going to gap up, and there's going to be a big gap down below. So I don't fully trust this. We might see this pop and drop again, but we'll have to see if SPY closes above the orange trend line or if we end up closing below it over the next few days. If we didn't end up breaking the orange trend line, then I could see myself turning more bearish. So we're going to be watching this. On SPY, I just want to remind you, watch 457 is resistance, 457.5, and 458. These are all going to be resistance levels. SPY is trying to rebound, but watch and see if we end up rejecting, coming back down to fill this gap. If we do reject, watch support at 456. Below that, we have 455, which is where this orange trend line happens to be. And if we lose the orange trend line, if we close below it, I would turn more bearish. And I think that we could see a bigger drop. So watch and see if there's like a pump and dump or if we kind of like dump from here. I'm just going to be very patient for the time being and see how it moves. There's a good chance SPY could push a little higher towards 457 and then reject. So I don't fully trust this move, guys. Don't forget there's going to be a big gap down below. We might just see a pop and drop, and let's just see if it closes above or below the orange trend line. The orange trend line is our key support. Let's see if we hold this or not. We're going to be very patient with it today. And with that being said, guys, make sure you watch your levels. On the QQQ, it's the same thing. I drew out these possibilities. So if we're bullish on the QQQ, you could see 388. If we break this, there's 389 and 390. If we do keep pushing like this, okay, it's awesome and all, but we have a big gap below. So it might push and then come back down to fill the gap. I think that's very probable. On top of that, I just want to call out that in order for us to turn really bearish, we have to lose this trend line of support, 383.75. Then it's going to start sinking. As of right now, it hasn't done that. So look for a gap up, then a drop. I wouldn't fully trust the market right here. And make sure you watch 388 as resistance, 389 and 390 for support. Don't forget to be watching 386.75, 385, and then the list goes on. We might see a pop and drop. So with that being said, make sure you watch your levels and do what you have to do. On Nvda is not looking that great, so it is attempting to rebound. If you want to turn bullish, you want to see it break 459 to 460. If it gets above 460, it can start pushing higher, but it's looking like it's failing to get above 457 thus far. It might try to touch and grab some liquidity at 459, then reject. We have a gap down here around this 454 area. I think it might pop a little bit, then drop back down. That's the most likely possibility. If it breaks 460, I would turn bullish. If we end up losing 452, I would turn bearish, and I think it's going to come back down to 450 and start sinking. So we have the bearish case and the bullish case, but I think that it's going to pop and drop, and I think it's going to come back down to fill its gap and possibly drop lower. So make sure you watch support, especially at 452 and 450, and see if it holds. Apple's trying to push up. We're going to be looking for 193.5. If Apple breaks and holds this, it could actually maintain its bullish stance and try to continue to push. If we end up failing at 193.5 and come back down to 192, we need to lose 192 to turn bearish. So as of right now, it's actually looking in the middle. Might push, but I think that this gap below suggests that it might pop and drop. Look for a pop and drop in Apple, and I think that there still is some downside potential. Anyways, guys, that's it for this one. Thank you all so much for listening. A lot of stocks are gapping up. There's going to be a big gap forming. That gap could still fill and stocks could still drop. I also mentioned to you all to watch and see if we get a follow through day to the downside to turn bearish. As of right now, there's still a good chance of a pump and drop, but we have to see where we close just for confirmation. Okay, guys? So hopefully this video was clear. Thank you all so much for listening. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you and peace out.